It's an absolute pleasure to welcome to VLGA Connect for the first time the Lord Mayor of the City of Melbourne, Capp. Hello and welcome.
Hello, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Now, delighted that you'd found some time to chat with us. I know it's an insanely busy time for you. We just wanted to catch up and see how you felt things were going, particularly as we're back in stage 4 lockdown across Melbourne. How do you think your city's been responding?
Oh gosh, well, I think on the whole people have really listened to and adhered to the restrictions and the advice of our health experts. We know this because a key indicator for us is our pedestrian counter, and that tells us that pedestrian traffic is down 90% on traffic this time to last year. And obviously that means that the hundreds and thousands of people that would normally be coming into the city are at home.
Yes, we've seen some of those surreal pictures of empty streets in the middle of the city. I guess it's great on one hand that people are following the advice and obeying the restrictions, but on the other, it's perhaps a bit soul-destroying for the city as well.
Well, nobody wants to be in this situation. It's so complex and it's so extreme, and of course it's a situation that none of us have ever experienced before or tried to manage or lead through, so it has a lot of challenges to it. And you're absolutely right, it's terrific that people are prioritising that health response. We all signed up to that right at the start of COVID, but it has so many other devastating impacts from mental health issues, social isolation, through to the impact for our small businesses particularly. Obviously employers right across the city of Melbourne will be feeling the impacts in some way, and all of us as individuals have had to adjust and sacrifice in some way, and in some cases that has more dire effects. But for us in the city of Melbourne, the 16,500 businesses that are actually located within our CBD area, 84% of those are small businesses. And we've done about 10,000 calls out to those businesses through our business concierge service. And the situation, of course, is cash flow. What do you do when you just don't have cash flow? How do you plan strategically? How do you manage your finances in a situation like this? Again, which people just haven't experienced before. And then the next part of inquiry is very much, how do we undertake negotiations with landlords, for example, when for small businesses they do feel that they don't necessarily have all of the resources and the support and the knowledge to be able to negotiate effectively for them. And it's all of these issues coming together, which makes it a very, very difficult time. Having said that, I'm so proud of how ingenious and resourceful and resilient so many business owners and their workers have been to try to find ways to continue to provide a service or goods or food for their customers, to continue the interaction and the connections and to survive during this time.
If you could go back 6 months and this was still to play out in front of us, what would you do differently, do you think? Or what do you know now that you wish you knew then?
Wow, Chris, that is a really big question. And we are, in many ways, of course, looking back across key issues constantly. In fact, we just signed off at Council to do a report, a publication of 2020 to make sure that we've captured as many learnings as possible for future. In terms of looking back and in retrospect, I think there are a few things. We've been really proud, I think, generally of the way that more values-based decision-making has come to the fore, and we've seen some stellar outcomes during this extreme time as well, like homelessness, for example, and the response to rough sleeping and the needs of our rough sleepers has been absolutely fabulous. State government agencies, local governments working together, rapid response on a conundrum that had seemed too difficult to crack previously, and now we have just about everybody in housing receiving support services and meals every day. So some things have worked really well. Other things where I think we've realised, firstly, that in all of our responses, we do need to put people first and at the centre of our thinking. We look back on some of the decisions we've made that might have had more financial elements prioritised. They may have had structural elements prioritised, but at the end of the day, in a crisis like this, we have to think of people first, the impact on people, how people will respond. And where we've done that, we've had better results than where we've prioritised other aspects. And for example, for us, initially we were looking at our budget and we were contemplating keeping rates at the 2% allowable cap, which is perfectly reasonable and being done in many other municipalities. But in a municipality where residents as workers and residents as business owners as well are so deeply impacted, the thought of adding, whilst it made financial sense to do that for us, the thought of adding to the burden at a time like this was just unacceptable. And so ultimately we made a decision as a council to go ahead with a rates cap freeze, for example. And then the last other point I'll make is that what COVID has really done is made us realise how absolutely intertwined every element of our ecosystem is. And where we try to address one part of that, it's like pulling a piece of string. All of a sudden, a whole lot of other things unravel. And if we went back 6 months, I think we would do a lot more of our planning and our responses based on the totality of that ecosystem rather than trying to fix a hole here, fix a hole there. It's really taking the time to understand, particularly in an economic and small business economic development sense, is how integrated so many of the issues are. Spend more time thinking about that at the start and come forward with, I would think, more fulsome solutions. But again, that's all in retrospect.
Really good insights, though, and heaven forbid you need to use those for any future crisis, but I think they're really useful learnings and reflections. In terms of your role as Lord Mayor of a capital city, but also part of a broader metropolitan area, how has the interaction been with your surrounding municipalities? Have there been useful interactions and initiatives coming out of that association?
Again, I think that COVID has revealed some very positive aspects as well, and one of them has been the level of cooperation and coordination across levels of government, but also within the 3 tiers of government. And I've never experienced, I mean, says she's only been Lord Mayor for two years, but I've never seen us operate at this level of cooperation before. In fact, I just came off a meeting with what we call the Inner Melbourne 9, which is the 9 mayors that make up Inner Melbourne. And we had actually started coordinating more with regular meetings monthly to look at areas where we have common issues. Waste, for example, is one. But as we've gone into COVID, we've been meeting much more regularly. We've been swapping stories. We've been looking at initiatives where we can coordinate, knowing that that coordination can actually drive more positive impacts, where we can get leverage, scalability, all of those sorts of things. Out of certain experiences, we've been very quick to share out of the hard lockdown experience in North Melbourne and Kensington, able to bring those learnings together and share with the other municipalities that also have public housing towers that before they even become at risk, what can we do to help those communities. We're looking, for example, we've just been talking this morning about bicycle lanes as a very viable and necessary transport option, even more so going forward. How do we accelerate that and make sure that those bicycle lanes are linked so that we can offer a genuine commute alternative as restrictions start to ease. As a capital city council, there are other elements. I mean, sometimes things happen to us first, or they happen to us in a more extreme way, and taking the learnings and sharing them, but also providing leadership. Our early coordination work with Spotless has ended up being a whole Working for Victoria program that municipalities across Victoria are now participating in. We also do a lot of advocacy into state government, so we're able to do that representing groups of mayors and municipalities, and also as a capital city we are utilising the Council of Capital City Lord Mayors more than we ever have before during COVID to bring a strong voice for local government into federal government. It's not to replace any of the other voices like VLGA, but it's to add information and voices to areas that are vital and urgent.
Did you ever think being Lord Mayor would bring with it challenges of this nature?
Of course not. And look, I'm still relatively new to local government. I'm an absolute evangelist for how great local government is and why it's so important, having been involved for a couple of years now. I love it. And I wish I'd known how good it was a long time ago, frankly.
Right.
But in times like these, again, a crisis, and we were talking earlier about the importance of people-centred decision-making, local government is the most closely connected to community. It is the most immediate way in which we can get feedback about what's needed or what's working. It is such a vital way of developing good policy, knowing the impacts that it can create in communities. And I think more of that is coming to the fore. Certainly we're seeing more of that in terms of the conversations we're having with state and federal governments. Who would ever anticipate a global pandemic that has basically written off almost a year and will have a long, long tail for us in terms of how we revitalise, recover, revive, thrive, all of those words of the work that lays ahead of us. But I feel that making sure that this is a people-led recovery, that we are listening to the voices of those who are working so hard in our small businesses, who are workers in our cultural organisations, in creative sectors, who are leading education, skills and training, who are our residents, who have those experiences locally on our streets. It's those voices that could be so effective in leading the way as we recover from this, and we're dependent on people. I mean, what's this pandemic has shown? We're dependent on every single person doing the right thing, and we're going to be dependent on every single person really putting their shoulder to the grindstone, as it says, and working together if we're going to recover from this at a good pace to make sure that there's a sense of hope, confidence and opportunity for the future.
Absolutely right. Well said. Before I let you go, I know someone who was part of an RMIT session recently where I believe you showed your musical side, a performance of a Queen song. Have I got that right?
I cannot believe, one, that I did that, and two, it's taken this long for anybody to comment on the fact that I humiliated myself by singing during an RMIT student welcome speech. But yes, I did do that, and there's a lot to be said about humiliating yourself, I think, Chris.
Well, I have to tell you, the report I heard was far from humiliation. It was very impressive, and it really got a message through as well about being yourself, and I guess taking life as it comes and not being so serious all the time.
That's right, and you know, education is such a great platform for really pushing your own boundaries, and so the message was don't stay within your comfort zone. Use your education as a way of really finding out how far you can push yourself and your natural talents, and even singing when you're not a singer, Chris.
Well said and well done. Thank you very much for your time. It's been a delight to speak with you, and all the very best for the meeting the challenges that are ahead. Lord Mayor Sally Capp, thank you.